My husband and I have been married for 8 years. Our oldest son is 6 years old and he brings us so much joy. We have always wanted to have another child, but for the past few years we have been very busy with work. It wasn't until I turned 34 that our careers gradually became stable. Our financial situation had also improved. So, we decided to have another child. We were very excited about this decision and looked forward to the arrival of our child. One night, with a pregnancy test in my hand, I told my husband the news of my pregnancy. Our faces were beaming with happiness. We decided to tell our family. The relatives expressed their blessings and joy. We also went to the hospital regularly for prenatal checkups. My belly slowly grew bigger and we looked forward to the arrival of our child even more. On the 3rd day of my son's birth, I left the hospital. For the next 5 days, I kept feeling a little unwell, but I couldn't pinpoint exactly what was wrong. My son rarely cried after birth and spent most of his time sleeping quietly. One night, I was sitting down to feed the baby. Shortly after I sat down, I suddenly felt a little lightheaded. I realized that I might not be feeling well, so I called my husband to come and carry the baby while I tried to go to bed to rest for a while. When I stood up, blood was running down my leg, which caused me to panic. My husband immediately called the emergency number and quickly helped me to the couch. He tried to calm me down and told me that an ambulance was on its way. I was filled with fear and despair. I began to cry loudly, and the chaos of my emotions made it impossible for me to control myself. My life was slowly fading away, and the feeling was overwhelmingly frightening. For me, the time seemed to become very long. Finally, I heard the siren of an ambulance. The paramedics carried me to the ambulance. My consciousness was fading. My husband held my hand tightly and kept giving me encouragement. When I closed my eyes, a wonderful sight appeared in my vision. I saw 3 gorgeous angels appear above me. They were wearing bright white robes. These 3 angels slowly began to approach me, and their presence made me feel peaceful. They were so close to me that I could reach out and touch their light. It was an experience beyond reality. The doctor kept trying to keep me awake. The doctor told me to hold on. After I opened my eyes, the angelic figures faded away. I was moved to a small room in the hospital. Slowly, I closed my eyes, confident that the doctors would do all they could to help me, despite not being sure what would happen next. The moment I closed my eyes, my thoughts became calm. Suddenly, an angel appeared in front of me. He placed his hand on my shoulder, and his gaze revealed an endless love. The angel asked me, "Do you choose to leave with me, or stay here?" I knew that if I chose to leave, it would mean that I would probably leave this world forever. At this point, I thought of my family. I knew that my leaving would bring them hurt and sadness, but they would start their lives over. They will slowly heal and find a new direction. The pain now is too much for me to bear, and I just want immediate relief. I chose to leave with the angels. The decision wasn't easy, but I knew it was the best choice I could make at the moment. The angel gently led me and carried my soul out of the hospital. I felt my pain fade away, and I was no longer trapped in the confines of my physical body. I felt free and at peace. The angel moved quickly upward with me. Although I didn't know where he was taking me, I believed he would take me to a better place, a place where there would be no more pain and worry. After flying for some time, a majestic building appeared in front of me, and it was the destination we were about to reach. The building was a rectangular shape surrounded by thick pillars. I saw 3 angels flying toward that place. I had seen them in the ambulance and was overwhelmed to see them again. I followed them and entered the interior of the building. I found the building to be a huge library. Inside the library, I met other people. I greeted them as if I had met a group of old friends and family. We shared our life stories with each other. The place is full of friendly atmosphere. In this library, we can learn a lot of knowledge that we can't learn on Earth. I was immersed in the pleasure of reading and learning. I came to the back door of the library, where a beautiful country road appeared. Flowers were blooming on both sides of the road. I followed the path all the way forward. After a while, a house appeared in front of my eyes. I heard laughter coming from the house, and I noticed a group of people strolling in the garden. I noticed that the door of the house was open. So I went inside. Upon entering, I immediately noticed that the room was filled with small children. Each child radiated innocence and their smiles were infectious. The house seemed to be a paradise for children. I could see the children playing in their own world. As I walked into another room, a child suddenly held my hand. In another corner, I saw a woman holding a baby. Her eyes revealed her endless love for her child as she sang a lullaby softly. Just at that moment, a grandmother came up to me. She smiled at me and gently asked, "Are you ready to stay here?" I thought for a moment and shook my head, indicating that I wasn't sure. She seemed to see right through me. In fact, she said softly, "You already have the answer inside you. You don't want to leave your child." Her words touched the softest part of my heart. I replied softly, "You are right, I don't want to leave my children. I can't imagine my life without them." The grandmother smiled and nodded as she continued, "A mother's love is a great force that gives us endless courage and strength. Your children need your company and care, and you will be more happy and satisfied as a result." I smiled at the grandmother and said, "Thank you for your understanding and encouragement. I have found the answer, and I will choose to go back." The grandmother gently held my hand and said, "You have made a wise choice and your child will appreciate your decision." The grandmother gave me a hug. Then she whispered, "Bless you, the child will bring you more happiness and joy." After leaving the house where the grandmother was, I continued to explore this magical place. I walked through a garden and a familiar face suddenly appeared in front of me. It was my cousin. In June 2013, I lost my cousin, and it was a heartbreaking moment. She was only 31 years old when she left us. She was a premature baby, so her health was never in good shape. Even though her health was never stable, she still had a generous and kind heart. One of my most vivid memories of her is her passion for animals. She always treated these helpless creatures with love. She often volunteered at animal shelters, doing what she could to help animals in need of care and shelter. This passion makes her happy. In January 2013, she found out that she had cervical cancer, which was certainly a heavy blow to her. Doctors performed a hysterectomy to control the disease. However, the cancer spread very quickly and put a huge strain on her life. By March, the doctors told her the disheartening news that even after chemotherapy and radiation, her chances of survival were not good. Despite her unpromising health, she continued to go to volunteer work every week. During an operation to rescue a stray dog, she was bitten by a stray dog. As her body resistance was already weak, this wound quickly became infected and led to the development of sepsis. On June 17, 2013, she left us. Her death was a great shock to all of us. It happened so suddenly that her family was completely unprepared for the funeral and had to postpone it for 2 weeks. Although my cousin and I had not been in touch for a long time, we had a very happy time, which made me feel especially sorry for her loss. My cousin grew up on a farm that used to be owned by my grandfather. Later, my uncle bought the farm and raised his 2 daughters there. I used to go to her house to play. Although I was 13 years older than my cousin, we really enjoyed playing together. We had many happy times on that farm. We ran in the fields together and chased dragonflies in the fields. As we got older, our contact gradually became less and less. The various responsibilities and busyness of life left us with little time to communicate. Now we surprisingly met again in this beautiful place. We hugged each other. I said to her excitedly, "I never forgot you, I always miss you." Now we have a chance to meet again, and it is so wonderful. My cousin shared her happy life here. She told me that this place can be a soothing and relaxing paradise for the soul. We talked for a long time here. Finally, my cousin reminded me that it was time to go back. When I opened my eyes again, I found my husband standing beside me, his eyes full of worry. I knew I had made my choice to return to Earth and get on with my life. A few days later, I left the hospital. When I returned home, I saw my little boy lying in his crib with an angelic smile on his face. At that moment, I felt an indescribable happiness. Only a mother can truly understand the satisfaction and joy. I want my son to grow up healthy. I was willing to give everything for him, to give him love and care. 3 months later, my husband suddenly asked me, "You seem to be a different person, more mature." However, I didn't answer his question, I just smiled a little. Over the years, I have learned to remain silent, especially about experiences that cannot be explained. I know that this story is too crazy for other people, and I wouldn't believe such a thing if I hadn't experienced it myself. What I went through was a supernatural experience. It was a personal growth and insight that I can't fully express in words. I have learned to remain calm and determined as I look at life's challenges with a more mature mind. Although I may have been like an overgrown child in the past, now, I am willing to take on more responsibility.
This experience happened in 2009, when I was working in a fast food restaurant. At that time, my income was far less than what fast food workers earn now, so my living situation was not ideal. It was during that time that something happened that changed the trajectory of my life. That night, one of my coworkers took a leave of absence and my supervisor decided to let me fill in for him. An hour into the shift, I encountered a customer with a bad attitude. He approached the register and ranted loudly, claiming that his order was missing one item and asking for free compensation. According to the company's rules, I asked him to present the purchase receipt. However, the customer told me that he had not received a receipt. I noticed that he smelled strongly of alcohol. I remained patient and tried to explain to him. But the customer became more and more irritable. He suddenly grabbed me and tried to pull me away from the checkout counter. Due to his large stature, I had no ability to resist. I felt a sharp pain in my chest. 2 of my colleagues tried to pull this customer away from me. My breathing became increasingly difficult and my body felt extremely uncomfortable. Fortunately, 2 police officers suddenly appeared at the fast food restaurant. One of the officers took immediate action to subdue the man who attacked me, while the other officer quickly called the emergency services. Soon, an ambulance arrived. The paramedics carried me to the ambulance. At that point, my condition was very serious and I felt very scared and desperate. I was only 20 years old and I started crying because I didn't want to die. I felt young and had a lot of unfinished business. On the way to the hospital, I tried to calm down and think about my life and my future. I realized how fragile and precious life is. At the hospital, the doctors confirmed that I was experiencing a heart attack. They quickly took me to the operating room. As I was being wheeled into the operating room, my consciousness began to fade. I couldn't be sure how long I had been unconscious. While in the coma, I felt something pulling at my body. Then, I heard a very loud popping sound. I struggled to open my eyes and found myself floating on the ceiling of the operating room. Doctors and nurses were surrounding a monitor. I could see that my chest was fully opened and that the doctors were installing some kind of device there, which I guessed might be a pacemaker implant or some other therapeutic device. My body was connected to various monitoring devices. with wires and tubes intertwined. I watched the procedure carefully. Even though there seemed to be some discomfort, I was curious. The doctors and nurses looked very skilled. A mysterious tunnel suddenly appeared around me, and it emitted a dazzling light. I was pulled into this mysterious tunnel. As soon as I entered the tunnel, beautiful music came from inside. This beautiful melody surrounded me completely. This music brought me great relaxation. The scenery around the tunnel quickly flashed past me. A bright light appeared in front of me. Although the light was still far away from me, it illuminated the whole tunnel and made me feel a sense of peace like never before. I didn't know what was going to greet me next, but I was filled with wonder and anticipation of the unknown. After I entered that light, I found myself in a special room. Room is not an accurate description, as it had no doors or windows. It transcended my understanding of the physical world and could not be accurately described with words. In this mysterious space, I felt a strong wave of love. It was not the love we experience in our daily lives, not family or friendship. It was an immensely powerful and infinitely amplified love. As this love enveloped me, I felt completely accepted and understood. In that moment, I realized that the earth no longer mattered to me. I was overwhelmed by such intense love that it transcended all bonds. There is no place like this place. I was filled with awe and gratitude for this space. It has changed my perspective and made me realize the true meaning of life. I heard a voice say to me, "Welcome to this place." I found no one in sight. I asked aloud, "Who are you? Where are you?" Just a moment later, she suddenly appeared in front of me. She was wearing a long white robe with simple and elegant gold trim embellishing the cuffs and collar. She wore a flower on her head. She said to me, "My dear, I am your great aunt and I will help you." Curious, I continued, "Where is this place?" She smiled and explained, "This is a transit point from earth to heaven. A special place." This transit station seemed to transcend my previous perception of the world. It was a wonderful existence between reality and the surreal. I told my aunt that I didn't want to go back. She gently reminded me that now was not the time for me to stay here and that soon I would return to Earth. Just then, another woman suddenly appeared in front of me. She was wearing the same clothes as my aunt, her hair was brown, and her eyes were very beautiful. I said to the woman, "I think I know you." She looked at me and smiled, and her smile revealed a familiar and warm feeling. As she smiled, I felt the love in the room become stronger. She replied, "Yes, you know me. You and I are soul mates and we have been through many things together." She told me about our relationship in a past life, when we had been a couple. She told me that we had lived together in a beautiful countryside. She and I had known each other at a very young age and we had spent our youth together. We decided to come together and become each other's partners when we were 19 years old. Our life was simple and full. Despite the lack of material affluence, we were filled with deep emotions and understanding. We worked hard together, striving to achieve our common dreams. When I was 22 years old, we welcomed our first child. We learned more deeply the meaning of love and responsibility as parents. Together we took care of our child's growth and gave him endless love and care. As time passed, we welcomed the arrival of our 4 children together. Although life was still difficult, we felt blessed beyond measure. However, at the age of 59, I suddenly passed away. Medical care was limited in those days, and we did not know exactly what I was suffering from. She smiled at me and said that our meeting now was not a coincidence, and that our souls were destined to meet again. Curious, I asked her why she had not met me again on earth. My aunt sensed my confusion. She told me that even though we were soul mates, sometimes our encounter was not entirely under our control in the endless cycle of the universe. Fate may cause us to miss each other and not meet in a particular time and space. The journey of the soul is complex and profound. There are many stages of learning and growth that we need to go through in our past lives. We need to aggregate these experiences and prepare for the journey ahead. As I was about to pursue this, the tunnel suddenly reappeared before me. My aunt told me that it was time for me to go back. Even though I didn't want to leave this place, I was dragged into the tunnel by invisible forces. I tried to struggle to stay and get back into the light again, however, I could not hold on to the edge of the tunnel. The light became blurrier and blurrier until it finally disappeared from my view. Through the tunnel, I re-entered the hospital room. As I looked up into the room, I noticed an angel standing next to the doctor. It was as if he was manipulating the doctor's hand through some kind of power. The doctor's movements were more focused and precise. I felt relaxed in the angel's light. I understood that I had been given a special blessing, regardless of the outcome of the operation. The angel said to me that you must grasp back into the body or you will lose this opportunity. I felt the urgency in his words, and I had to act quickly. I stared into the angel's eyes and said, "Please help me get back into my body. I understand the preciousness of this opportunity and I don't want to lose it." The angel nodded. He reached out his hand and gently touched my forehead. And at that moment a warm energy penetrated my whole body. I felt myself slowly begin to return, and my consciousness and body gradually merged together. I tried to concentrate and fully integrate my consciousness into my body. I felt the beating of my heart. I knew I was returning to the real world, to that body I knew so well. Darkness enveloped me, as if time had stopped. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself lying in another room. My body felt sore, as if I had experienced a strenuous workout. In the weeks that followed, I chalked up that experience to drug-induced hallucinations. Because it seemed so unreal, I couldn't believe for myself that it was actually happening. One day, when I was visiting my mother, I asked her if I had ever had an aunt. My mother pondered for a while and then told me that there was indeed an aunt, but she had passed away before I was born. I was shocked. I had never heard any stories about her. I told my mother that I had seen my aunt in another world. I described my aunt's appearance in detail. My mother chose to believe my words. She admitted that the character I described was very similar to my aunt's facial features. This fact surprised us both. This conversation reinforced my belief that the experience was not a hallucination, but a real one. I am grateful for my mother's understanding and acceptance, and her support gave me the courage to pursue my inner truth. From then on, I believed that my experience was real. It was a unique journey. For some time after that, I suffered from depression. I felt so intensely loved and yet turned away from that love. This experience made it hard for me to adjust to my life now. In order to seek help, I decided to go to a psychiatrist. The psychologist had an in-depth conversation with me and listened to what I was going through and feeling. Although he could not understand how I felt there, he would help me adjust my emotions. Although I still longed to return to the light during psychotherapy, I gradually realized that the process would take time and effort. Through psychotherapy, I learned to manage my emotions.